Welcome to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Cailin. Today I'm going to be covering the May 2022 horoscope for Libra Sun, Moon, and Risings. In terms of which horoscope to watch, I always recommend that you watch your Ascendant, otherwise known as Rising Sign horoscope, first and foremost, and that is because it will be the most accurate for you overall, generally speaking. Having said that, if you are a Libra Sun, this horoscope is more likely to pertain to your work, your career, and your life goals. If you are a Libra Moon individual, this horoscope will reflect your family situation, your emotional state of well-being, as well as your property and living circumstances. I will be using tropical astrology and the whole sign system to cover the major transits for the month of May. So let's get into it. First and foremost, we will be having a new moon solar eclipse on the 1st of May. Now, if you are in the Northern Hemisphere, this is likely to occur for you on the 30th of April. Nonetheless, the new moon eclipse in the sign of Taurus will be in your 8th house at 10 degrees. So in terms of eclipse energy and how it works, usually about 3 or 4 weeks before the eclipse and even 3 or 4 weeks after the eclipse, our our emotions can be running high. Our sleep pattern may be disturbed or irregular. You may be feeling a little bit anxious at this time, and you may notice that strange occurrences are happening around you. Now, with this eclipse occurring in your 8th house, this is likely to impact you in one or more of the following ways. For some of you, you can have a newfound interest in the occult world and spirituality. You may be having a spiritual breakthrough around this period of time. Your mutual resources with other people are subject to change, and there may be a very big focus for you on health. Now, in terms of the surrounding astrological energy, this new moon eclipse will be making a conjunction to Uranus at 14 degrees. Uranus rules over your 5th house, so this indicates that for those of you who own your own business or who are looking to open your own business, this could be something which basically is ushered in with the new moon eclipse. This can also impact your romantic life, your dating life, and also children if you do have children. On a different level, this new moon eclipse will be making a sextile to 4 planets in the sign of Pisces. So we will have Mars in Pisces at 11 degrees, Neptune will be at 24 degrees, and Jupiter and Venus will be conjunct at 27 degrees. Actually, they will be just 1 minute apart, and this is super important because Venus is the ruler of the eclipse, and it is also your ruling planet. So even if you don't have any planets in the sign of Taurus, and even if you're not, a Taurus ascendant, it doesn't matter. This eclipse really will be impacting you in a very big way. So with Venus, which is considered to be the lesser benefic in astrology, being conjunct Jupiter, which is the greater benefic, meaning that both planets bring blessings in some way, shape, or form, there is likely to be some sort of positive turn of events which occur with this new moon eclipse. So, on one level, this can see you commencing a new sexual relationship with another person, and this could actually be someone that you are friends with or that you work with. And I'm saying that because Jupiter will be conjunct Venus, and Jupiter rules over your 3rd house as well as your 6th house, which represents friends, acquaintances, and co-workers. The 6th house also represents people that you hire to do certain services. So, this could be starting a sexual relationship with, I don't know, like a pool cleaner, just a random go-to hypothetical scenario there. On a different level, though, this can indicate a new business relationship which is forming and moving along to the occult and spirituality and anything esoteric. This can basically see there being some sort of new breakthrough here, or maybe you're suddenly interested in the tarot or astrology or numerology or Reiki, and you may find that you have certain skills or talents in this department, given that your ruler, your chart ruler, which is Venus, will be conjunct Jupiter. So you can experience a number of blessings through delving into these matters and these topics. Now, the eighth house is connected to your mutual resources. So, on one level, if you are in a relationship, your significant other may see there being an increase in their finances and in their pay. They may receive a lump sum of money, or they may receive an important, valuable, or possession or asset. Now, the way eclipses work is that the catalyst or the correspondence or the eclipse like event, which is, sometimes sudden or shocking and can take us by surprise, is likely to occur about 10 days either side of the eclipse. So, any time from, let's say, the last 10 days of April to the first 10 days of May, but it may take another 3 or 6 months or even longer for the effects to start rolling in from this eclipse. So, just taking one of those examples into consideration, your partner may receive the news that they are receiving an increase in their pay, but it may not come through for another few months. Now, on a different level, this represents your mutual resources. So perhaps you will be receiving inheritance money or alimony money or child support. And again, you can receive the notification around, let's say, April or May, that this is going to be coming into effect, but it may take a few months before you see that money. Now, the eighth house is connected to our health on some levels. Traditionally speaking, we look at the sixth house, but the eighth house is connected to surgeries, procedures, as well as healing. Okay, so some of you may be investigating getting a surgery done or a procedure done, and there certainly is a big focus on health here because this new moon eclipse in Taurus will be sextiling all these planets in Pisces in your sixth house. Now, before you start freaking out, I just want to say that sextiles are really helpful and beneficial aspects. So, in my opinion, it's not as though there's a health issue that's rolling in. But having said that, to me, this looks like in the long term, your health can improve for the better. However, the new moon eclipse conjunct Uranus can bring through some kind of crisis moment. Now, with Uranus ruling over your fifth house, this would potentially be connected to your back as well as potentially your heart. So, again, I don't want to freak anyone out, but you just want to be careful with your back around this eclipse. So, literally, as soon as you start watching this, even if you watch this in April, you don't want to be doing anything which can set your back off. So I suppose I would say no roller coasters, no go-karting, nothing that's going to kind of like, put pressure onto your back. I feel like I've focused on this too much now. All I want to say is that this eclipse looks like it can bring some really profound and deep healing into your life, whether this is physically or psychologically or energetically. So this would be an excellent time to look at Reiki healing or perhaps seeing a psychologist or maybe even a psychiatrist. So a new chapter can be starting with regard to your health in a really positive way. With the sextile to all these planets in Pisces in your sixth house, on the financial front, even though you may be receiving money, you may need to loan some of that money to another person. You may need to help someone out with this money. Maybe you need to put this towards helping out your children or investing in schools or education or something for them. Doesn't need to be education. You may have to pay off a debt with this money that you're receiving. So let's just say, you receive inheritance money and then it's like, oh, well, better pay off that, $10,000 credit card debt. On a different level, this can see you forgiving someone or solving some kind of conflict, which has really been distressing you emotionally and physically. And even if you're not sitting down, with this other person saying, hey, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm sorry too, and I forgive you, and blah, 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 maybe you're just letting go of a really traumatic experience, something from your past or something that this person did to you. And now this is actually having a positive impact on your emotional, psychological, and physical health. So moving along, on the 10th of May, Mercury will station retrograde in the sign of Gemini at 4 degrees. So this will be retrograde in your ninth house until around the 22nd or the 23rd of May, at which point Mercury will retrograde back into the sign of Taurus in your eighth house. And Mercury will station direct again on the 3rd or 4th of June, depending where you live in the world. So with Mercury retrograde in your ninth house, this is highlighting education, travel, the law, and your spiritual, religious, political world, and ideological beliefs. So, with Mercury retrograde, this is about you pivoting, making adjustments, returning to an old way of being, or revisiting things from the past. So, on the beliefs front, maybe you are returning to a former belief. So, let's just say that you were, as an example, religious growing up, and then you were like, no, I'm not religious, I don't believe in this, blah blah blah. Now with this Mercury retrograde in your ninth house, maybe you are returning to these teachings or returning to these set of religious beliefs. And this example can be used for your spiritual beliefs, ideological, political, and your world beliefs, and so on and so forth. With respect to your education, you may be returning to school, especially if you had deferred, or maybe you'd even quit school and now you're re-enrolling. You may actually be changing your subjects or changing your units at school. Now, with Mercury ruling over your ninth house as well as your 12th house, this is pretty cool. Some of you may actually be transferring to a university or a college that is abroad. Now, the 12th house is connected to what I like to call culture shock countries. So basically, this would be a country really, really far away from you, or a country which is incredibly different to yours in terms of culture or just natural surroundings. And certainly, any country which speaks a different language to the one that you grew up in would also be what I like to call a culture shock country. So you may be transferring to one of those countries. On the travel front, maybe you are picking up your by the way, just realized that with Mercury ruling over your ninth house, it doesn't need to be a culture shock country. It can be any international country. Nonetheless, on the travel front, a trip may be postponed or cancelled or delayed, or one which has been delayed previously. You may finally get to go on this trip. There could be some changes to your flights and to your itinerary around this point in time. So if you do have international flights booked, or any plane flight, okay, if you're boarding a plane around, the 10th of May through till even the first week or so of June, just know that the time may be changed. Maybe it's brought forward, pushed back. Your flights may be grounded. Now, if you need to take certain tests to board the flight or to provide certain documents, you'll really want to do this before, well, in advance. I wouldn't leave it till 24 hours before, but also you'll want to take duplicates and triplicates of any kind of travel document that you need. When I travel abroad, I always take photocopies of my passports, or I just have it, available in my various email accounts. So pretty much just back up all the kind of information that you would need. And, same deal goes for accommodation and where you're staying. I can tell you a very exciting and crazy story about that at another point in time. Just moving through to how the law can be impacted with this Mercury retrograde occurring in your ninth house. A case can be reignited. Maybe there are fresh leads on this case. Maybe there's new information which is coming to light that was previously hidden, especially because Mercury rules over your 12th house, which represents anything which is hidden. Mercury's information, and then Mercury will retrograde back into your 8th house, which is also connected to secrets and hidden information. So if there is an open investigation, or if there was a cold case, like I said, this can be reignited and you may actually get to the bottom of it. Now, lastly, with Mercury retrograde in Gemini in your 9th house, this can see you reconnecting with your father. Now, maybe you were estranged from him, or this could be any kind of father figure. Maybe you have a poor relationship with them, or you weren't on speaking terms, but with this Mercury retrograde, this can see you actually reconnecting with them, whether you're reaching out to them or they're reaching out to you. And, this can be via any form of communication. So looking at the 22nd/23rd of May, when Mercury retrogrades back into the sign of Taurus in your 8th house, this can see there being delays with your significant other's pay. So, this doesn't have to be the pay rise, which I mentioned with the eclipse. This could be like their regular pay, and all of a sudden their money is frozen or tied up in, maybe they just don't have access to it. There's just issues going on there. The terms of your combined resources that you have with other people, not just your partner, are subject to change. And for some of you, there can be changes to alimony money, child support, and inheritance that you're meant to receive. So these are all 8th house topics. And just as an example, maybe your former partner wasn't paying child support despite you asking them to, and now either they just, offer up cash, which would be great, or there could be a reversal of a court decision. And I'm saying this because Mercury rules over your 9th house. So, with anything to do with mutual resources and money that other people owe you, if there was a court order, this decision can be changed or reversed. Moving along, though, the 8th house is connected to psychology, psychiatry, and anything to do with occult information and practitioners. So Mercury retrograde is about going back to someone or something, or revisiting something. So with psychologists and psychiatrists, this can see you going back to have another session with them. Even if it's been years, Mercury retrograde can bring people back from the past. Existing appointments are very likely to be rescheduled, changed, postponed, or they can just be a mix-up, like rocking up at the wrong hour or on the wrong day even. Same thing goes with, astrology readings, tarot readings, psychic readings, and so on and so forth. Appointments can be just randomly missed, changed, forgotten about, cancelled, postponed, etc. Again, you may return to the same astrologer or tarot reader. And, it can be a Reiki healer or numerologist. It doesn't need to be astrologers. And on a different note, something that happened in a previous session may finally click. So perhaps you saw a psychic and they made a prediction and you either forgot about it altogether, and now you're like, oh my God, this thing just happened. Or maybe something that they said which didn't make sense previously, it suddenly clicks into place and you're like, oh, that's what they meant about that. I know that has definitely happened to me before. Now, just going back to the 10th of May, on the same day that Mercury will station retrograde in Gemini, Jupiter will enter the sign of Aries, which means it will be transiting your 7th house for the first time in about 12 years. So it will be in Aries in your 7th house from the 10th of May until the end of October, at which point it will retrograde back into the sign of Pisces for a little bit. Then on the 20th of December, Jupiter will re-enter the sign of Aries, and it will be in Aries in your 7th house until July 2023. So first of all, yay, having Jupiter in your 7th house can bring you blessings and abundance and good fortune to your partnerships. It can increase the amount of clients that you have. So, this can be a really positive time for you. And having said that, because Jupiter is opposite you as a Libra sun, moon, or rising, it can almost be too much at some points. So, for example, you may be overwhelmed by the amount of clients that you have, or by the amount of friends that want to catch up with you. And also, It's important to note that Jupiter rules over your third house, which is connected to friends, siblings, co-workers, and clients. And it also rules over your sixth house, which is connected to co-workers, work in general, your health, and your daily habits and routines. So with Jupiter here in your seventh house, this can see you making new friends, meeting new co-workers. If you own your own business, this can indicate that you are expanding your team and hiring more people. You may be hiring a consultant to advise you about your work. This can see you receiving much needed guidance and help from a trusted counselor, or any individual who you hold in high esteem with regard to your health. So maybe they are helping you with some current health issues that you have. And on a different level, this can see you entering into a new collaboration with someone who is a foreigner. So they could have grown up in a different country to you. They could have a very different cultural background to you. They don't necessarily need to be um, like totally different from you in terms of culture. This can also represent a difference in status. So sometimes when Jupiter enters the seventh house and we form relationships, the other individual may be very, very wealthy, or they may be highly educated, or we may feel as though we kind of put them up on a pedestal in some way, shape, or form. So, having said that, you could be forming a work collaboration with one of those individuals. Maybe they're like an expert or an influential person. They could actually just literally be a Sagittarius or a Pisces, Sun, Moon, or Rising. Or maybe you are forming a close relationship with a teacher or a spiritual or religious figure. Now, moving along to the 16th of May, when we're going to see a total lunar eclipse in Scorpio in your second house. So this eclipse will occur at 25 degrees, and lunar eclipses, also known as full moon eclipses, basically represent regular full moons but on steroids. So the fact that it's a total lunar eclipse and not a partial lunar eclipse indicates that this is a very, very powerful ending of a chapter that's going to occur in your life. I do find that total lunar eclipses bring about noticeable changes, whereas partial lunar eclipses can sort of be more psychological, or maybe not felt as intensely as other people. And again, you may be having like a really crazy sleep schedule around this time. You may not have a sleep schedule around this time, and you may be feeling extremely emotional around this point because it's a lunar eclipse, so they're more emotional, and it's in the sign of Scorpio, which is a water sign. So, water works. But you guys are air signs, so maybe you won't feel that way. With this being in your second house, this can see you resolving some kind of issue with money, because the second house represents finances and our valuables and possessions. Also, with this eclipse energy, first of all, it's making a square to Saturn in Aquarius in your fifth house. Second of all, it's making a trine to Mars and Neptune in Pisces in your sixth house. So I see this as the good transit outweighing the negative transit, the negative one being the square to Saturn. And essentially, this can also see you ending some sort of difficult family situation or cultural issue. And I'm saying that because the second house, as well as the fourth house, is connected to family. The second house is connected to food. So because this lunar eclipse is making a trine to Mars and Neptune in your sixth house, this indicates to me that a sacrifice will likely be made. So maybe you are giving up certain foods. Maybe this is like dairy, just as an example, or sugar, or reducing your intake of certain things. And this could see you quitting smoking as well. So this is really tying in that sacrificial energy, which will benefit your health. I see this as benefiting you in some way, shape, or form. But the square to Saturn in Aquarius in your fifth house represents a lack of fun, because Saturn is like restricting and delaying, and the fifth house is partying and fun and celebrations and vacations. So, whatever is happening around this particular point in time, it could be um, delaying or restricting your ability to go on a vacation, to have fun, to date as well. That's another implication of this lunar eclipse. And this could be connected to your diet, food, smoking, changing your smoking habits, maybe changing your recreational drug habits as well. This could be connected to finances too, because the second house represents your finances. So maybe you are having to um, you know, hold back from spending money on partying or a vacation or doing things that you really want to do. So there's this like sacrificial energy, which is coupled with this restriction on your ability to enjoy yourself in some ways. Now, the second house also represents our valuables and possessions. So this could actually see you donating a valuable or possession or having to part with it. And this ties in that sacrificial energy with Neptune and Pisces, but this is for the greater good somehow. On a different level, so lastly with this, there could be the end of a financial stream of income taking place here. So the sixth house, which is being trined by this new moon eclipse, represents your working life as well as your health habits. And essentially, the second house represents your finances. So maybe you are having to um, really strip back how much work you are doing. Maybe you have to give up work altogether. And then somehow this is, impacting your finances. So just moving along to the very last transit for this month on the 24th/25th of May, Mars will enter the sign of Aries in your seventh house. So from the 24th of May till about the 28th of May, we will have Mars, Jupiter, Venus, the moon, and Chiron all in your seventh house. So basically, your personal relationships, as well as your relationship with business partners, your spouse, your significant other, um, close friends as well. All of these relationships are so highlighted, and they really are from the 10th of May onwards, but especially around this, 24th till 28th of May time period. So if you are in a relationship with another person, they will have something happen in their lives. Like, I don't like to give, guarantees or say 100% this is going to happen, but 100% this will happen, that there will be some kind of huge focus or event which takes place in their life. Maybe they are changing their course in life. Maybe they're receiving some kind of good news, with Jupiter and Venus and the moon, which are all, Venus and moon are very sensitive planets. This can represent their relationship with you, given that Venus is your ruling planet. And for some of you, you could be entering into a new committed relationship, whether this is romantic or not. This could be a new business partnership, a new friendship. And, Mars is the ruler of your seventh house, and Venus is your planetary ruler. Venus will be in Aries from the 3rd of May until the 28th of May. So with the ruler of your seventh house being in the seventh house, together with Venus, which is your ruling planet, I mean, come on. These are really, really positive indicators for a new romantic start taking place. Maybe this will just be a new relationship. Maybe you will be um, there'll be a proposal which occurs around this time. Maybe you'll be going exclusive with your partner. On a different level, though, this can see there being some, like worst case scenario, fights or arguments with your significant other or with a friend or within a personal relationship. And I'm saying this because the moon and Venus are so sensitive, and Mars is here and Chiron is here. So, just be mindful about what you're saying to other people, and what feedback you're receiving from them as well. So because Aries is your descendant, to me this looks a bit more like someone that you're dealing with could be more brash or harsh rather than it coming from you, but it could go either way. In any case, though, this is a great time to reach out to other people, to form new collaborations, to ask about working together, to look at your mutual resources and how you can generate a higher income. So there's lots of changes coming through, and you will be really, really busy. Just as I'm ending this horoscope, I just want you to know that there'll be lots of communications going back and forth with you and other people, whether these are friends, family members, your clients, your co-workers. This is a heavy month for business, so business deals and dealings of all kinds. So really make use of it, because this is a very exciting time for you, Libra. And so, Libra, that's all I have for you for May 2022. If you enjoyed this horoscope, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more content on this channel, please hit the subscribe button. And if you'd like to book a personal one-on-one reading with me, you can do so via the link in the description box below. Have an amazing month, and I will see you guys in June.